It's time for Cutting Edge Consciousness with Freeman Michaels and Barnet Bain. Thought-provoking discussions and bold ideas from the edge of possibility.
And welcome to Cutting Edge Consciousness. Freeman Michaels here.
With Barnet Bain. I hope you're having a great day.
Did you think you were bringing us in?
I did think we were bringing us in.
Your eyes went wide on me.
I did think we were bringing us in. But you know what?
I said I was going to throw it to you.
I love that. I love that about you. We're flexible here.
We're so flexible.
We know how to roll. So lots going on. Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, you've been busy.
Very busy. More busy than I care to be, but that's okay. We'll take it.
You will?
Yeah. What do you do?
All right. I want to just really briefly, I want to just share something that went on. So I had this experience yesterday afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
I was very, very focused on being fully as I could be in my body and not processing all data, as is my wont.
Right.
Through all kinds of mental loops. And all of a sudden,
mm-hmm.
I find myself having this experience, which in due course, I realize I'm in some kind of like hypnagogic state.
You're off the reservation.
I'm totally off the plantation.
That's right.
I've moved. Not only have I felt awkward and uncomfortable being that fully with the energy in my body, that I've lifted up to my head, and I'm so far in my head, I'm in like REM sleep. And
Wow.
I'm having this experience that I wake up out of, and I realize I've just had some kind of a dream that lasted all of maybe 8 or 10 seconds, and had to do with a yellow HB pencil and
Nice.
and the eraser tip on the end. And in the
That's
experience of that
nice.
dream, this made, in its own logic and reason, it was coherent and consistent.
You were one with your writing device.
I was definitely at one with my writing device. So from the perspective of the wakened dreamer,
Right. Okay.
reality was one thing. I had
Yeah.
generated the pencil, the little avatar that was me that was holding the pencil and ruminating on the eraser on the tip. I was all of it. From the perspective of the awakened me sitting in my chair, having realized I had just nodded off into some kind of dream state.
Yeah.
Reality is something very, very different.
Truly.
Both of them are equally true.
Yep.
One of them is a little bit more empowered vis-a-vis my ability to have impact and effect upon that domain of dreaming.
Yeah.
So my point is...
Why did you come back? That was just my question. I don't know. Every time, I'll just speak personally.
That's cute.
I've had moments out of body, and this idea of coming back and being back in my body is awfully jarring. And there
Why
is
do you
that
come
question. I don't know. I'm asking you. You're the one that had it most recently.
I would come back because my consciousness is set by default to this particular experience.
Good answer.
I have so many laid in scripts and agendas and intentions and agreements and relationships.
Yeah, you still got work to do here.
All of which, well, I'm not even as
I know.
I'm not going as precious as that.
I know. That's good. Thank you.
I'm not going to go down the precious language road.
I know.
But,
I did it. I slipped on it.
There are certain kind of energetic matrices that return me to this particular orientation. And in fact, my point is, I realized that that violating those, I was making this effort to be very, very present with just the energy, the chi in my body.
Yeah.
That was so disruptive. That was such a so confrontive to so much of how I am calibrated that I immediately went up into my head and made it mental. So far up into my head that I went off into this kind of dream state.
Can I relay one little quick story that goes along with this?
Real quick.
Well, you and I were delighting in some kids recently. We were just hanging out, having lunch.
You were delighting.
I was so delighted.
I was.
You were worrying about the pencil. There was something else going on for you. But the point is, I have the experience of really getting into it with my own children, but also with other kids, and I love the ride. And yet I find myself, this is slightly different, but not totally different, feeling inclined to track back, get back to reality, get back to making sense of my world, get back to my monkey mind, get back to all these things that I must do, and so forth and so on. And anyhow,
I'm not really sure how that.
Well, it does correlate in a particular way because there's lots of different threads. You and I have talked about this just in terms of having fun. Fun is a frequency. It takes us into a different realm. And
well,
so,
the frequency piece
Go ahead.
is where, as it happens, things always seem to kind of pull together in some magical, mysterious way. As it happens, I wanted to end up at the frequency piece.
You're there.
The highest truth that I've been able to kind of discern from all of this is that we have a number of vocabularies through which we kind of modulate we modulate energetic experiences, and we either create mental narratives of them or we create emotional mental experiences out of them in the body. But they thread back to energetic states.
Yes.
And my intuition is that we are beginning to explore and to have experiential relationships with this kind of cutting edge of being, that with an awareness we're able to now track into these experiences and begin to become relational with them. And there we begin to tap into perhaps the edge of a relationship with an experience that we can understand in some emergent way as the oneness, as the transcendent and inclusive energetic matrix out of which narrative riffs are born, or little dream states where I have little kind of ruminations on a pencil. All of these things are the topography of a narrative topography that is something at root is a matrix of energy. I bring that up not just to bore our board operator here.
His eyes are rolling back in his head. Barnett's at it again.
I bring that up because I'm really, really pleased to have my friend here today who knows a thing or two about oneness.
And energy. And
energy. And
yes.
I think he's going to have one or two things to say about it. His name is Tim Kring, and he calls himself a multi-platform storyteller. But he's better known to fans worldwide as the writer and creator of Strange World, Crossing Jordan, a little program called Heroes, and his new TV series Touch, starring Kiefer Sutherland. But wait, there's more.
Yep.
Tim innovated a new blend of philanthropy and entertainment that invites viewers to become a part of the story in order to create real world change. So that show, called Conspiracy for Good, resulted in around half a dozen schools in Zambia and about 50 scholarships for schoolgirls, and is a harbinger of untold potential and possibility for meeting the challenges of a world becoming new. So, that's not enough, right? I recently caught up with yet another of Tim's mind-blowing, heart-blowing efforts it's an online show called Daybreak, and we will talk a little bit about that soon because he does touch on many of the themes that we are passionate about on this program. So with that incredibly short introduction, I want to welcome you, Tim, to Cutting Edge Consciousness.
Thank you. Great to be with you.
Well, there's so much that fascinates you, that is consistent with the passions and the interests of Freeman and I on this show. You sum it up so gorgeously in the prologue to Touch.
Mm-hmm.
You say many gorgeous things in there, but you allude to this. I don't know whether it's a real Chinese myth or whether it's a convenient Chinese myth, but both ways it does the trick. This story that all 7 billion of us are tied together in some sort of Indra's net with a chord. Speaking
Yeah,
to the oneness.
idea of the red thread of fate, which basically says, and it's a real myth that basically says that there's an invisible red thread that ties around your ankle and connects to every other person who you are destined to connect with in life. Primarily people that you're supposed to, meet and fall in love with, I think is probably where it really comes from. But it says that cord can tangle and can stretch, but that it can never break. Which is a really nice idea, to think that there is some sort of predestined idea in this myth that we are meant to find the ones that we're meant to find. So the show Touch really just takes that basic idea or big idea and really expands on the idea of interconnectivity and how the smallest actions that you have and take in your life actually have great consequences. So that if our consciousness were to shift to the point where we had awareness of that even the tiniest actions of losing our keys in the morning before we get into our car, and those 30 seconds that it took to find them, means that you may not have backed over that kid riding the tricycle on your way out of the driveway. And so if we understood that there was a kind of interconnectivity, then these small actions that we would take in our life, we would actually give great meaning to. And so the show just basically asks you to explore that idea and to look at the world through that lens.
Often described as the ripple effect.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the idea that every moment is perfect if we can view it from a particular perspective that allows for it, versus the idea of resisting it, which is not only ineffective but also not that helpful.
Yeah, and obviously, there is choice all the time to either deny, your destiny or to lean into it, and so so that therein lies the stuff of drama when a character tries to deny it.
Lean into mystery.
Well, I love that you are spinning drama out of the esoteric underpinnings of all that is. I love that. I love that you're doing it, and I love that about you. But mostly, I am interested in those underpinnings themselves. I'm curious how you came to become aware of this unseen architecture of geometries that links us. And I know that you have passions that extend from and for Nikola Tesla, and probably, I'm guessing, Buckminster Fuller, and the whole pantheon of geometrists.
I don't have much of an agile brain for a lot of the quantum physics that I'm actually writing about. I'm good at a Google search that can find something, but to be really honest, I don't have a very agile brain for it. But I have a great curiosity in the idea of interconnectivity, and I started to find that over many years, I started to realize that I was exploring those themes in multiple ways in the shows that I was doing, in individual episodes that I'd write, and I began to realize that that was something that was very important to me. I remember after 9/11, I felt so impotent to do anything to make any sort of statement about it. And I ended up writing an episode of the show that I was working on, Crossing Jordan, that turned out to be an episode called Miracles and Wonders, that when I look back on it now, all these years later, was really a primer for the show Touch. It was almost identical to that idea, that those themes were beginning to really percolate in my mind. And so with Touch, I decided, the show Heroes very much had this as a theme. It was hidden underneath the kind of genre of superheroes and slightly sci-fi, fun action stuff, but really it was about underneath, it was about interconnectivity, and it was about how all of these disparate characters around the world would find one another in order to save the world. And we talked a lot about, I think we used the phrase, "we are all connected," literally 100 times in the first season as a kind of mantra.
It's fantastic.
And then with Touch, I decided to not bury that theme below the surface. It is a show that is unabashedly just about that. And that was sort of it, in a nutshell, is telling these stories of, the tales of the red thread, basically, of how we're all connected to one another.
I love it. And part of something that we've said on this show before, at least in terms of the creative process, is there's a discovering and a being discovered by the material. And what I hear you speaking to is that there was a theme, perhaps even unbeknownst to you, at least at the time you were in the middle of it, that at some point you could get above and you could, as it were, see the thread. And I guess what it sort of suggests is there's an opportunity to tune into something. Again, when we started, Barnett was alluding to the idea there are these frequencies that we can begin to become aware of, and in essence ride into these sort of destinies playing out in front of us.
Yeah, and I noticed over the years where I used to kind of denigrate myself for this and beat myself up about the idea that I didn't think my way through the stories. I felt my way through them. And,
I love that.
And it was it's a very difficult thing to do in a business that reveres the head so much, But the truth is, I very often am pretty inarticulate about what it is that I want to say. I go into it saying I feel, and everybody else around me sort of comments on it as though it says, "Well, here's what I think about it." Often it's sort of a twain, two diverging lines. So I've learned to just kind of be okay with that and know that the whatever fragile muse that I use to write is a very shy and sort of shy creature, and I know that it doesn't come along all the time, but when it does, I learn to kind of listen to it.
Well, I have the pleasure of knowing you, and so my experience of you is that there is a balance between the thinking modality and the feeling modality, and that balance is slightly tilted in favor of the feeling and the intuitive, and that it is my personal belief and experience that these things are vibrational frequencies.
Yep.
And that out of the vibrational frequency, which is the function of things, emerges the form of things. And so it does not surprise. What surprises and delights me is the form that your gifts take in the world, but it doesn't surprise me that they are invariably generous and seek to uplift and make connection and empower people. There's a video that you have on your online series, which I want to really recommend to our viewers because it's thoroughly entertaining, and by the way, a PhD in with so much sugar to the medicine that you will be so surprised and delighted. This show is called Daybreak online. There is a video on there that shows it looks like a sand bed.
Oh yeah. These are the yes, I forget what they called it.
They're sort of like these sand mandalas or powder or something. And what is happening, folks, is that there are some very dramatic frequencies that are being piped into this, or piped toward this sand bed as this fine sand or powder is being sifted onto this platform, and it reacts and rearranges itself almost mandala-like in relationship to the pitch of the frequency.
Exactly.
And it is a spectacular show and tell. You cannot come away from that without either questioning the veracity of it, and then when you get past that, you cannot come away from that without beginning to entertain the idea that there is a relationship between how things are expressed in form and these vibrational qualities that these matrices that underlie them.
We have to take a quick break. Can we come back right here? Because I want to talk about this. This is phenomenal. But we have to pay some bills.
We have to pay some bills, and we know you have a lot to say about that. So we are going to hear from a few of the folks that pay for the freight around here, and we will be right back with Tim Kring.